Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to our channel, Digital Future AI School. Kindly subscribe our channel, like and share with friends, and this is the episode 21 of book, Your Smartness Partner in Life and Work, written by Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir. Today we are diving into something absolutely critical for our future. It's a blueprint, really, a guide that defines how we build, govern, and deploy artificial intelligence responsibly.
It's a huge topic.
It is, and we're focusing on the framework laid out in Chapter 21 of that book, AI, Your Smartest Partner in Life and Work. We're going to try and extract the core principles, the things we have to get right to make sure AI's transformation serves humanity, instead of harming it.
Which is a very real possibility if we're not careful.
Exactly. I mean, AI is reshaping everything, every industry, how we talk to each other. But the big question, one that matters most is, does all this change actually benefit us? Does it uphold human dignity?
And the stakes couldn't be higher.
They really couldn't. The source material, it frames AI safety and ethics, not as some, optional academic debate. It calls them national imperatives, business necessities, and moral responsibilities.
Strong language.
It is. So our mission today is to give you a shortcut to understanding that whole ethical blueprint. We'll go from the core philosophy to the practical steps. We need to know the risks, the 7 foundational pillars for any AI system, and then the specific roles everyone has to play.
From the coder to the policymaker.
And the individual user, too. Everyone. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. And the urgency here, you really can't overstate it. We're at a pivotal moment, a real hinge in history. What's so compelling about the source material is how it draws this clear, direct line between responsible AI and a stable, prosperous future.
It's not about slowing down innovation, though.
Not at all. It's about making sure that innovation is sustainable, that it's equitable, that it actually benefits all of society. Without that strong ethical framework, we are just risking, irreversible damage from this incredibly powerful technology.
So we need a shared map to navigate this.
We do. And that starts with staring the risks right in the face. So we'll begin there by defining the serious dangers of unchecked AI. Then we'll get into the solution, the 7 pillars for ethical systems.
And finally, everyone's role in it.
Exactly. The specific actionable roles for every stakeholder, including you, the listener. It's a complete holistic view of safety, engineered from the ground up.
All right, before we jump to the solutions, we have to really sit with the problem. The source makes it crystal clear that as AI gets more powerful, the risks they magnify, they grow exponentially.
These aren't just hypotheticals.
No. These are threats that could genuinely destabilize our societies. So let's go through the top risks from the book, the ones that should be keeping decision makers up at night. Let's start with the one that, for me, is the most frightening, the erosion of truth.
That's the first one the source calls out. The problem of misinformation and these incredibly sophisticated deepfakes. And this isn't just, someone posting a fake story on social media.
It's so much deeper than that.
It's the erosion of truth itself. At a foundational level, AI can now produce video, audio, text, all of it hyper-realistic, indistinguishable from something a real person said or did.
So imagine a deepfake video of a world leader declaring a war.
Exactly. Or a CEO making a statement that crashes the stock market. The speed at which that fabrication would spread, pushed by other algorithms, it could cause real-world panic, financial crises, diplomatic incidents, all before a human analyst can even begin to verify if it's real.
And the end result of that is just a profound skepticism about everything. If you can't tell what's real, you lose trust in media, in your government, even in what you see and hear yourself.
It cuts right to the core of how a democracy functions.
It really does. And beyond that huge social risk, you have the tangible socioeconomic threats, the things that affect people's jobs and livelihoods.
Right. We have to talk about job displacement. As AI gets more capable, the book argues we're going to see automation move way beyond the factory floor.
We're already seeing it.
We are. It's moving into knowledge work. Things like legal research, financial analysis, customer service. And if this shift happens without a real plan, without retraining, without economic safety nets, it could lead to massive socioeconomic instability.
You're talking about a huge increase in inequality.
Potentially. Widespread hardship for millions of people whose jobs gave them security and, frankly, dignity. This isn't just about efficiency gains for companies, it's a major challenge to our social fabric.
That economic threat is then matched by a threat to individual freedom, specifically surveillance and the violation of privacy.
Precisely. AI systems are, by their nature, designed to collect, to analyze, and to process enormous amounts of personal data. They do it at a speed we can barely conceive of.
So without incredibly strict controls.
Your personal liberties are immediately at risk. The source is very emphatic on this point. Privacy is a fundamental human right. Unchecked AI is a fundamental threat to that right.
Because it can build these detailed profiles on every single one of us.
Your habits, your beliefs, what you buy, who you know. And the risk is that the surveillance infrastructure can be used for social control, for predictive policing, for targeted manipulation. It just strips away your sense of agency, your freedom to think and act without being watched.
From there, we move into the domain of actual security threats, where AI becomes the weapon. We have the obvious risk of hacking and data breaches getting much more sophisticated.
Much more automated.
Right. But also this idea of uncontrolled automation and misuse by criminals.
The ability of AI to automate malicious activity is, frankly, terrifying. An AI could design and run millions of personalized phishing scams at once. It could amplify the scale of cyber attacks exponentially. It could even write new computer viruses faster than human experts can create patches.
And what about that uncontrolled automation part?
That's just as serious. Imagine an autonomous financial trading system that gets caught in some unexpected feedback loop and crashes the market. Or an AI managing a power grid that malfunctions, and it's so complex you can't easily shut it down.
The consequences could cascade.
And be completely unpredictable, especially when these tools fall into the hands of state actors or sophisticated criminal groups who want to cause maximum disruption.
And speaking of state actors, we have to talk about the most extreme risk on the list, autonomous weapons. This takes that idea of uncontrolled automation and applies it to decisions of life and death.
This is what many people call the ultimate ethical red line. The source highlights autonomous weapons as the ultimate risk because it removes human moral judgment from the loop on the battlefield.
There's no human responsibility.
None. The problem is twofold. First, you have the potential for a simple algorithmic error or a miscalculation to lead to a catastrophic unintended war. Second, and this is maybe more fundamental, is the moral problem of outsourcing the act of killing to a machine.
It devalues human life.
It diminishes the value of human life and bypasses all the laws of war we've developed over centuries. This is a risk that absolutely demands global treaties and severe restrictions now.
But the risks aren't always so physical or military. They can be much more insidious and personal. The source highlights psychological manipulation. This is an area I think a lot of people overlook.
Absolutely. A personalized AI is incredibly good at finding and exploiting human vulnerabilities. Our biases, our insecurities, our fears.
So if that technology is weaponized.
It can be used for profound psychological manipulation. Think of political ads tailored to reinforce your deepest fears, driving society further and further apart. Or sophisticated scams that prey on the elderly. It can impact mental health, create anxiety.
All to drive a specific action, like a purchase or a vote.
Exactly. And when that goal overrides any ethical boundary, it weakens our democracy and it genuinely harms individual mental well-being.
Okay, so let's just recap that list of horrors. Destruction of truth, economic instability, loss of privacy, massive security threats, lethal autonomous weapons, and psychological harm. If we let these risks grow, the consequences they're enormous.
The book is clear. Unethical AI doesn't just make mistakes. It actively works to destabilize societies, to destroy trust, to amplify injustice.
How does it amplify injustice?
Think about algorithmic bias. If you train an AI on historical data, which is full of human prejudice, the AI learns that prejudice and bakes it into its code. So a hiring tool might discriminate against women, or a loan algorithm might discriminate against minorities.
It's institutionalized injustice, but now it's automated and scaled up.
Perfectly put. It violates human dignity through surveillance. It weakens democracy through misinformation. It causes real, irreversible harm. So the goal of this entire ethical blueprint is non-negotiable.
Safe AI.
Safe AI. To ensure that technology uplifts people, it can't be allowed to hurt them. That's the absolute baseline for a future where technology is actually beneficial and not just powerful.
Okay, so we've established the problems, and they are significant. Now let's pivot to the solution. The source provides this structural framework, the foundation on which all responsible AI has to be built.
This is where we lay the groundwork. The book says ethical AI rests on 7 core pillars. And we really need to define each of these because together they represent the ethical minimum standard for any system.
And it's not just technical, right? It's social and moral, too.
Exactly. It's a comprehensive approach.
Let's start with the first one, which feels like the cornerstone for everything else. Transparency. It sounds simple, but what does it really mean for these complex AI models?
Transparency means deep explainability. You'll hear the term XAI or explainable AI. It means the system has to be designed to explain how it made a decision.
So what data did it use?
What data did it use? What are the model's limitations? And this is critical, who is ultimately responsible? If an AI system is just a black box where even the developers don't fully understand how it got to an answer, well, that inherently creates distrust.
And you can't have trust if people's lives are on the line.
You can't. If a bank uses an algorithm to deny you a loan or an AI helps a doctor with a diagnosis, you have a right to understand the reasoning. The human who is overseeing that decision has to be able to trace the logic.
So no more the computer says no.
Exactly. The source is clear. Without real verifiable explainability, you can't have accountability and you can't have fairness. It means we have to find ways to open up that black box, even when it's technically very difficult to do so.
And that idea of transparency flows right into the second pillar, which tackles the most dangerous outcome of opaque systems: fairness. This is about fighting bias.
This is where the fight against embedded bias really happens. The core principle of fairness is simple. AI must not discriminate, but bias is. It's incredibly difficult to root out.
Because it's learning from human data, and our data is full of bias.
Full of centuries of it. So the models will naturally absorb and often amplify those biases unless they are explicitly and intentionally corrected. The book gives a specific list of protected characteristics: race, gender, religion, disability, socioeconomic status, nationality.
Can you give us a concrete example of how this plays out in a high-risk situation?
Absolutely. The source points to areas like hiring, lending, and policing. Let's take a risk assessment tool used in a courtroom to help a judge decide on bail.
Yep.
If the historical data fed into that AI shows that certain ethnic groups were arrested and convicted at higher rates, even for the same crimes, the AI will learn that statistical correlation. It doesn't see an individual person, it sees a data point belonging to a group.
And it projects that historical bias into the future.
Precisely. The algorithm will then consistently predict a higher risk for anyone from that group, reinforcing the original prejudice. It becomes a vicious cycle. Fairness demands that we audit these models constantly to ensure they're producing equitable outcomes.
So if these flawed bias systems inevitably make mistakes, that brings us to the third pillar: accountability. How do we define that beyond just saying someone is responsible?
Accountability requires clear, established mechanisms. You need to have processes in place before something goes wrong. Processes for figuring out who is responsible, for correcting mistakes quickly, and for appealing a wrong decision.
So you can't just blame the algorithm.
Never. The source insists that the ownership of the consequence has to trace back to a person or a company. There has to be a human in the chain of command.
So humans have to stay in control.
That's the bottom line. Humans must remain in control of the decision cycle, especially when the consequences are severe. Accountability ensures there's always a human point of contact for remediation. Moral responsibility has to remain a human trait.
Let's move to the fourth pillar, which links back to that fundamental right we talked about: privacy protection. Given how much data these systems need, what are the actionable steps to achieve this?
The source gets very prescriptive here. First, systems have to follow the principle of data minimization. Only collect the data you absolutely need for the task. Nothing more.
Not just grabbing everything you can.
Right. Second, you have to effectively anonymize sensitive information. There are advanced techniques for this, like differential privacy, which can protect individual identities within a dataset. Third, robust security to prevent unauthorized access. And fourth, always ensure explicit, informed consent from the user.
So the user has to be in control of their own data.
They have to be. It's about building privacy into the system from the very beginning, not trying to tack it on at the end. The book reiterates that privacy is a human right, and AI has to be designed to uphold it.
The fifth pillar is security. This goes beyond just standard cybersecurity, right? It's about the unique vulnerabilities of AI models themselves.
That's right. Security here is about protecting the AI system itself from being manipulated. You have the traditional risks like hacking, but then you have these very specific, highly technical threats.
Like what?
The book mentions adversarial attacks. This is where an attacker makes tiny, almost invisible changes to the input data. A few pixels in an image, for example. To a human, it looks the same. But those tiny changes can cause the model to make a catastrophic error.
Like misidentifying a stop sign as a speed limit sign in a self-driving car.
Exactly. And because the attack is so subtle, it's incredibly hard to detect with normal security. You need specialized defenses. Another huge threat is model theft, where the AI model itself, this incredibly valuable asset, is stolen.
And a stolen model can be weaponized.
It can be weaponized, or its vulnerabilities can be reverse engineered. The risk is profound. A compromised AI is a weaponized AI. You have to be able to trust the integrity of the system's operation.
Which brings us to pillar number 6, human oversight. This feels like the ultimate fail-safe. It's about setting hard limits on AI's autonomy.
That's exactly what it is. Human oversight dictates that AI must never operate completely unsupervised in critical domains where irreversible harm could happen.
And the source identifies what those domains are.
Yes. Legal decisions, healthcare, especially diagnosis and treatment plans, policing and surveillance, military operations, and core government functions.
So in these high-stakes areas, the AI is an advisor, not the final authority.
That is the perfect way to put it. A human expert has to be in the loop. They have to review and explicitly approve the AI's output before it takes effect. Because humans bring context and empathy and moral judgment that an algorithm simply doesn't have. We use AI as a tool, but we can't let it become a morally blind authority.
And finally, the 7th pillar, which really defines the mission of the technology, beneficial purpose. It's not enough for AI to be not harmful. It has to be actively good.
This is the North Star for the whole endeavor. Beneficial purpose means that AI must actively seek to uplift humanity and solve big global challenges.
Like what?
The book lists specific goals: empowering people, improving public services, supporting education, strengthening healthcare, promoting fairness, protecting the vulnerable, and advancing scientific knowledge. This pillar requires us to design AI not just to be safe, but to be actively helpful, ensuring the net result is a genuine improvement in the human condition. So once we have those theoretical pillars, transparency, fairness, accountability, and the rest, we have to make them real. We have to move into the practical engineering steps.
This is the blueprint for the builders. How do you actually embed these principles into the code?
Right. And the source breaks it down into 4 operational levels where you have to take action at the level of data, algorithms, deployment, and governance.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. At the level of data, we've all heard garbage in, garbage out, but the book suggests we're fighting something much more complex here. We're fighting ingrained human prejudice.
That phrase is a massive understatement when the garbage is systemic prejudice. The book really emphasizes that everything about the AI's output depends on the quality and diversity of the input data.
So what are the requirements for the data itself?
First, you have to use truly diverse training data. It has to reflect the entire global population you want to serve across every demographic. This is a huge auditing challenge.
It sounds like, how do you even do that?
It takes continuous forensic-level work on your data pipeline. You have to actively remove bias. That means looking for harmful proxies. Things like zip codes that correlate with race or certain shopping habits that correlate with socioeconomic status, and you have to neutralize their impact.
So it's not just about balancing the obvious things.
No, it's much deeper, and it requires culturally sensitive labeling of the data and an absolute commitment to avoid illegal or unethically sourced data sets, no matter how useful they seem. This is the first ethical checkpoint.
Okay, so that's the input. Now let's move to the engine itself. At the level of algorithms, this is about evaluating and hardening the model.
Right. The model itself needs continuous aggressive evaluation. This involves a few key actions. First, rigorously testing for bias using statistical methods. Second, performing thorough risk assessments during the development process.
So trying to anticipate how it could be misused.
Exactly. You have to ask, what is the worst possible way someone could use this? You have to think like an adversary to build strong defenses. Third, you have to ensure deep explainability, making the how visible to auditors and regulators.
And finally,
you implement specific safeguards to limit dangerous capabilities. These are hard-coded limits, digital guardrails. They prevent the AI from doing certain harmful things, even if it's technically capable of them, like preventing a chemistry model from generating formulas for chemical weapons.
that makes sense. Next up is at the level of deployment. The book says we can't just release these powerful tools blindly. So what does a controlled release look like?
It's all about access control and constant vigilance. A practical step is to restrict access to the most powerful or potentially harmful capabilities, especially when the model is new. You have to closely monitor its real-world use for any unexpected or abusive behavior.
So the release is really just the start of the safety process.
It's when the real testing begins. You also need to establish formal oversight committees for high-risk deployments. And you have to provide mandatory user warnings that are very clear about the model's limitations and risks.
No system is perfect, and users need to know that.
They do. And finally, you need comprehensive audit trails. Every decision, every input, every output has to be logged and traceable. This serves both the transparency and the accountability pillars.
The last piece of the puzzle is the structural one, at the level of governance. This is about making safety part of the corporate culture.
This is the bedrock. Strong governance is what prevents harm on an organizational scale. The source demands that companies implement clear, enforced ethics policies from the very top. They must also commission independent external audits.
So you can't just grade your own homework.
You can't. External bodies have to verify your safety protocols and your fairness metrics. Companies also need to publish regular transparency reports detailing how their models are performing, what failures have occurred, and what they're doing about them.
And they need someone in charge of this?
Critically, yes. Appointing a dedicated, empowered, responsible AI officer who has real authority. But maybe the most proactive step the book mandates is something called red team testing.
We hear that term in cybersecurity. How does it apply to AI ethics?
A red team's job is to think like a bad actor. They deliberately try to break the AI to make it do unethical or dangerous things. They try to find ways around the safety guardrails, to generate hate speech, to create misinformation.
So it's testing the system's resilience against human creativity and malice, not just against predictable code flaws.
That's the key distinction. It tests for novel attacks. And that has to be paired with continuous misuse detection programs once the AI is live, so you can catch abuse before it scales up and causes systemic harm. Governance makes sure safety is a priority, that it's funded, and that it's enforced.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because this isn't just a job for the engineers. The source argues that safety requires this huge collective effort, a shared mission.
That's the critical insight. AI is a global technology, so the response has to be global. Let's start with the entities that hold the most power to regulate. Governments. They have to act to protect their citizens.
So what are their main responsibilities?
The source outlines two essential levers. First is creating comprehensive AI regulations, and these have to be modern laws covering things like deepfakes, algorithmic transparency, data protection, and content authenticity. They define the rules of the road.
But laws need enforcers. The book suggests we need entirely new government bodies for this.
It does. It calls for national AI safety authorities. These would be expert agencies tasked with overseeing the largest and most powerful AI systems, the so-called frontier models.
And what would they do?
Their job would be highly technical. Testing these systems for risks, basically, government-level red teaming, certifying models as safe before they can be deployed in high-risk areas, and then monitoring and enforcing compliance. They're the expert final check.
Beyond regulation, governments also have to educate the public, right?
Yes, through public awareness programs, teaching citizens how to spot manipulation, how to verify information, how to use these tools safely. A digitally literate population is the first line of defense against misinformation.
And this has to happen on a global scale.
Absolutely. The final piece for governments is international cooperation. AI risks don't stop at national borders, so countries have to work together on global safety standards, on cyber defense, and on cross-border regulation. No one country can do this alone.
Okay, now let's turn to the ones building the tech. The companies. Their mandate is clear, but it often runs against their business model. Prioritize user safety over short-term profit.
Their responsibility is immense, and the source says it's equal to that of governments. They have to be proactive. That means preventing harmful capabilities from being built in the first place, even if they're powerful.
They have to provide clear usage restrictions, monitor for abuse.
All of that. And they should publish clear, standardized safety scores for their models, like a crash test rating for a car, so customers know the risk profile before they use it.
That would require a huge cultural shift in the tech industry. From move fast and break things to move carefully and protect people.
It's a fundamental shift, and it requires them to be radically transparent about their models, limitations, and flaws. It's a commitment to ethics, even if it slows things down or affects the bottom line.
What about the role of universities and researchers? They're training the next generation of builders.
Their role is twofold. First, education. Universities have to make AI ethics a core, mandatory part of the computer science curriculum. It can't be an optional seminar, it has to be woven into the technical training.
And second,
Second is the conduct of research itself. They need to actively research new ways to make AI safer and fairer. And the source stresses they must avoid unsafe experimentation, especially research that could lead to dangerous, uncontrollable capabilities. Their goal must be to uplift humanity, not just to publish novel papers.
which brings us finally to the individual users, to us. In this massive ecosystem, what is our role?
The source gives us a fundamental reminder. Technology might be powerful, but morality belongs to humans. Every single one of us has an ethical responsibility.
What does that look like in practice?
It means we have to proactively verify information. To not be an unwitting part of a misinformation chain. When you see something online that feels off, that's your cue to check it before you share it.
It's about digital literacy and a sense of self-restraint.
Exactly. We have to avoid misusing the technology, respect the privacy of others, and refrain from creating harmful or discriminatory content ourselves. And we need to actively protect our own personal data. Ethical AI can only work if it's operated by ethical, conscientious humans. Our daily choices matter. Now, if we take a step back and connect all of this to the bigger picture, the conversation moves from just technical safety to a much deeper philosophical alignment with human
This
values.
is about the ultimate purpose of it all.
Precisely. And the source gives us two powerful frameworks for this. First, the general principle of protecting human dignity, and second, a specific alignment with timeless ethical principles from Islamic tradition.
Let's start with that first one, the protection of human dignity. This feels like the ultimate ethical backstop. If an AI violates this, it has failed no matter how clever it is.
It has fundamentally failed, and protecting dignity means AI systems must respect, preserve, and empower the human element. Specifically, they must respect human autonomy and preserve free will.
Meaning people have to remain the primary decision makers in their own lives.
Yes, the AI cannot be allowed to subtly coerce or manipulate their choices. The ability to choose, free from automated influence, is absolutely central to what it means to be human.
This feels like it goes way beyond just data privacy. It's about our psychological space.
It is. AI has to protect our identity, maintain our privacy, and actively avoid psychological manipulation. If an AI uses what it knows about you to nudge you towards a harmful decision, it is stripping you of your dignity.
And the goal should be to support our well-being.
Exactly. To support mental wellness, not create more anxiety or isolation. The ultimate goal, as the book says, is for AI to empower us, to enhance our agency, not to replace us or diminish the meaning of human effort.
The source then has this really fascinating section on how Islam provides a timeless framework that aligns perfectly with AI ethics. This grounds all the technical rules we've discussed in a deep moral tradition.
It's a very powerful connection. The book identifies 6 foundational principles from Islamic tradition that map directly onto the pillars we've already talked about. They provide this clear moral guidance.
The first principle is truth. How does a moral imperative for truth translate into a technical requirement?
Hack demands a complete rejection of falsehood and deception. In the context of AI, this aligns perfectly with the fight against misinformation. Technically, it means AI systems must have things like built-in digital watermarking to clearly label content as AI generated.
So there's no ambiguity.
Right. And they need mechanisms to flag and neutralize generated content that tries to pass itself off as real. Any AI that creates deceptive deepfakes is in fundamental violation of hack. The commitment to truth has to be engineered in.
The second principle is justice. Adl. This feels like the direct moral foundation for the fairness pillar.
It is. ADL requires treating everyone fairly and without bias. It's the explicit moral reason why we must ensure algorithms don't discriminate based on race, gender, or status. It gives the moral weight to justify the hard, expensive work of auditing for and removing algorithmic bias.
And the third principle is privacy. SATS.
SATRA literally means to veil or protect. It mandates the protection of human dignity and private affairs. This directly reinforces the privacy pillar, requiring data minimization and strong anonymization. It frames the right to privacy as a deep moral necessity.
Next is accountability. Hisab.
Hisab means reckoning or accountability. It requires justification for every action. This aligns perfectly with the accountability pillar, demanding clear audit trails and ensuring a human is always responsible for the outcomes. It reinforces that technology is just a tool and responsibility remains a human burden.
The fifth principle, non-harm, letter R, sounds like the ultimate safety check.
It's a comprehensive mandate for harm reduction. LADAR demands that AI must not cause physical, emotional, or social harm. This covers the entire spectrum of risks we discussed, from autonomous weapons to psychological manipulation to job displacement. It's the moral foundation for both the security and human oversight pillars.
And finally, there's a principle guiding the positive use of AI: compassion, Rama.
Yes, Rama means compassion, mercy, benevolence. This gives real moral depth to the beneficial purpose pillar. It's the moral drive that says we should use this powerful technology to help people, to ease suffering, to improve healthcare and education. It ensures AI is used to serve the most vulnerable and enhance well-being for everyone.
So we have the risks, the 7 pillars, the practical blueprint, and the collective responsibilities. What does this all mean for the immediate future? The book concludes with some specific predictions about what the next decade will bring if we follow this path.
The source is cautiously optimistic. It outlines several key milestones we should expect to see. First, the formation of those new AI safety institutions we talked about, and the creation of global treaties on AI misuse, especially for things like autonomous weapons and state-sponsored misinformation.
And that structural change should lead to changes to the products we actually use.
It should. The source predicts we'll see mandatory ethical certification for high-risk AI models, and the widespread use of transparent AI scoring, those standardized labels, like a nutrition label, so you know the risks of a system before you use it.
And the technology itself will evolve to be safer by design.
Yes. We'll see the development of safer multimodal systems, AI that can handle text, images, and video together, but with safety built in from the start. We'll also see certified child-safe AI environments. And, crucially, real internationally backed restrictions on autonomous weapons and a huge increase in moral AI alignment research.
So the big takeaway, the final synthesis, is that the goal isn't just to build powerful AI. It's to build AI that is trustworthy, reliable, fair, beneficial, and deeply aligned with human values.
That is the central conclusion. Artificial intelligence will define the future of our society, but ethical AI will define the quality of that future. Everything, justice, security, prosperity, dignity, will rest on this foundation.
The goal isn't just power, but service.
Service with fairness, compassion, and integrity, using ancient moral wisdom to guide brand new technology. And this comprehensive ethical framework, it really sets the stage for the next wave of innovation. The source tells us the next area to explore is the future of innovation itself, the breakthroughs that are just over the horizon. So the question for you to mull over is this. As these new, even more powerful technologies emerge, how do we make sure they follow this essential ethical blueprint from day one? How do we ensure that the most powerful tool ever invented is also the most principled?